I'd like to communicate 4 main ideas. First of all, that in a sustainable world, materials are as important as energy. That dematerialization depends much more on our own lifestyles. That government is the one that can provide directionality to succeed in this huge endeavor. And a very controversial thing, we need to have everyone on board across the whole political spectrum and across the world. Otherwise, we cannot succeed. So, beginning with the notion of materials. I mean, in recent decades, the climate change controversy and the shift from fossil fuel to renewables has received much more attention than materials, which are in fact energy intensive and of limited availability. So we have 2 huge problems. They actually are part of what we're supposed to be resolving with renewable energy. The shift to renewables happens to be a matter of public and private investment. It's mainly a big thing. You invest in solar and energy and all that, but the materials issue is very likely to depend on all of us. The truth is that humanity faces a gigantic challenge. We need to abandon the mass production paradigm, our way of living. Those obsolete modes of excessive, wasteful production and consumption have to become a thing of the past. And that will mean massive innovation, massive investment, massive change by all of us across the globe. The millions of people that are entering the middle class in China and Asia need a different model of prosperity than the so-called American way of life. In fact, unfortunately, the whole world is still copying the old American way of life because nobody has provided the new model. I mean, obviously, from what we just saw, the Swedes are trying hard. But that is, well, trying a little. Okay, so what we need is to use information technology, biotechnology, materials technology, everything else that science, technology, business, communities, and citizens can deliver in order to shift to a smart, green growth path in production and consumption. The task is mammoth. But the good news is that this terrible pandemic has created a situation similar to war destruction. So we're going to have to reconstruct, and the reconstruction cannot just be a return to the past. But as the Davos people are now saying, it must be a reset. And it's very important for us to see the business community and understand this. And it is happening, fortunately, it's beginning to happen that everybody wants to know what's going on with the environment because they know that's the direction we're going to take. So as we come out of COVID, we need to use the opportunity to leap into production models and lifestyles that provide a better future for all. So how do we do it? That is the question. So what needs to be done? First of all, do we have to abandon comfort and make sacrifices? No. We reinvent comfort. We reinvent the good life, as with each technological revolution. Otherwise, we only get minority support. We've got to make life much better. A sustainable life be aspirational, wonderful. So we move culturally from being couch potatoes to an active, creative enjoyment of life. We prioritize health, exercise, good food, healthy habits. We turn from possession to access or rental. I mean, what we need is the thing. We don't need to be owners, so we can use it when we need it. That includes cars. We appreciate quality and durability and look down on waste. You know, waste is embarrassing. Oh God, you're going to throw that out? How could you? You know, it has to become culturally disgusting for people to waste. We enjoy and consume information and education and everything intangible. And we change our mobility habits. towards sustainability, and become conscious consumers, reshape demand so that business knows that what people want is this sustainable type of living. So maybe some of you will be thinking, are you trying to turn the workers into middle-class consumers? Well, yes, there is the education, the educated middle class is already tending to go in this direction. But you know what happened after the Second World War was precisely that the workers imitated the middle class thanks to a lot of government policies that made it possible, because it was the middle class that had the cars, the TVs, the radios, everything that the workers had afterwards, after the war, the educated and richer middle classes had before. And that's exactly what we need to do. We need the workers to also want to go to, to go up the mountain or whatever, all these things that the current educated middle class wants to do. We need health, of course, the workers do their own exercise. Some of the workers do their own exercise, and they don't need to go to exercise, but they can do all the other wonderful things. So what does this mean? Well, it means that business will be moved to respond to catering to such demand. They would then try to turn as many products as possible into services, because people don't want things, they want services, like we have with books, music, and film now streamed. The circular economy, we will want them to reduce, reuse, recycle, etc. Innovate in bioplastics, biomaterials, all these things, wood for construction. Make durable goods truly durable and upgradable. There is no reason why a refrigerator couldn't last 100 years. And if we shift to a rental and maintenance model of these long-lasting goods, there'll be hundreds of thousands of jobs doing precisely turning, maintaining, 3D printing the parts, all the things, so that we keep goods so that more people can have them. Because, if we were going to have 5-year refrigerators for everybody in the world, forget it. We can't. But if we can have 100-year refrigerators, then everybody could have them. So innovate in sustainable architecture, town planning, transport, etc. So on and on and on and on. Really? How are we going to get people and business to change so much and fast enough to save the planet? I mean, I'm talking about a pretty major thing. Well, let's go back to the initial question. How do we do it? Governments do it. Governments must provide directionality through policy. If we look at every previous golden age in capitalism, it has always been led by government. That gives the direction, that helps in every way so that things go in the proper directions. We have taxation, tariffs, subsidies, regulation, and all possible mutually reinforcing instruments. We need institutional innovation, like Mariana's missions proposal. She's, by the way, bringing out a book, which will be very useful for this sort of thing. Public investment in infrastructure. We need good, cheap internet for everyone. We need low carbon transport for everyone. And it has to be, those things are what really make it possible for everything to be intangible, to be able to put things on internet. And of course, we must support sustainable innovation. But it must be a win-win game between business and society. We need to get the workers on board. Let me tell you something. We cannot, must not turn green into another wave of job destruction. We need to make it a wave of job construction, well-paid employment creation. If we don't do that, forget about the assault in Congress. We're going to have it everywhere. And they're right, because they've already had 3 waves: technology, globalization, and COVID. Are we going to get the green wave now to destroy jobs and skills? You're mad. We can't. We mustn't. We've got to make sure that our strategy for green, whatever we propose in whatever stage, whatever position we're in, We've got to make sure it's a job-creating strategy. And the other obvious thing is that we have to get business on board. It must not be a set of regulatory hurdles and pains and taxes and horrible things. No, we need a set of encouraging signals with good consequences for business. So that if we put taxes on the bads, so that they move to something where we are making it easier so that they can actually both create the jobs and do the things and make the changes that are needed. Also, it must be an empowering context for all citizens and a test for politicians. With action from the local government, through the regional, through the national, to the global, including people, including the community. We need global things too. We need a multi-level structure for this huge transformation. We need to win massive support for technological and social innovation towards sustainability, with transparency of information about success and failure in attaining the goals, so that politicians must, they have to really respond to this demand of the great majorities. And finally, it must avoid a race to the bottom between countries or regions. We cannot have one country super strict on green and the other country super over. No, that's if we do it that way, we'll never get there. So we need to, within each country, balance incentives and restrictions. Then we need to have clear and stable multi-party strategies. Yes, we have to sit down, the left wing, the right wing, the center, the whoever. We need to say, this is what we need, this is the strategy we're going to follow, and we must all agree. It doesn't have to include very complicated things. It just has to include the green things and the policies that will make it profitable for business and good for workers. So by having clear and stable agreements, we will be much better, so that if a government changes, it doesn't change the green policies. We need stability on the policies. And also by arriving on multi-country agreements, we're not going to have business fleeing to the easy countries. And eventually, you know what? We need global institutions to guide the world transformation process. Of course, we already did the Paris Agreement. We already have the United Nations development goals. Great. No, we need something with teeth. We need something that will be a real agreement where if somebody violates it, they're in trouble in the International Criminal Court or something like that. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's got to be serious decision, because this is a very serious problem. It's an existential problem. So the size of the planetary problem determines the size of the solution. So I've been talking a lot about green, but I haven't said anything about the social agenda. Am I giving up on the social agenda? Do we not focus on reducing inequality as so many of us would want to? Well, let me tell you, of course, we need to fight for the new welfare system, for reducing inequality, for universal basic income, to guarantee a jobs guarantee program, all the things that, that are really, we can't give up on that. Of course not. The probability of succeeding on those goals is probably greater than ever now because of what we're saying about the pandemic and about that. But the problem is that we need everybody to agree on saving the planet. So what we do is that we all agree on the planet, and then we fight about the social things. And that way we can make sure that we're going to get to the end. I also happen to believe that based on historical experience, better times are truly possible now. These 4 horrible decades in terms of social differentiation, inequality, all this thing could be over. Historically, this is what has happened. The post-war boom, life was better for the majorities than the unequal roaring 20s and the depression of the 30s. So I am convinced that we can now construct a golden age that is sustainable, much fairer, and also global. Thank you.